Guild Wars 2. Here's my thoughts going into the level 80 story and finishing out essentially the base game, right? So there are the expansions still. I haven't messed with them yet, and we'll see how the game kind of culminates and ends itself off. But at the moment, what I would say about Guild Wars 2, from what I've gone through so far, is I have very little interest in continuing to play the game beyond this point. I'm interested in seeing how the story ends because I've gone through reading and paying attention to the entire story up to this point, so I just want to see how they finish it out. The thing is, the gameplay is all of your skills are based on the weapons you have equipped, right? So you have very limited options outside of that. Your 5 main abilities are all selected based on your weapon. Your 6th ability is based on whichever healing ability you choose to utilize. 7, 8, and 9 are all... I think it's 7, 8, 9... No, 7, 8, 9, and 10th abilities you get to select based on where you've spent skill points. Right? So you have very limited selection of skills to choose from. And in those base skills, at least as a thief, some of this is very janky. Because if you use one ability, it's going to launch you over the enemy and possibly off the edge of whatever you're fighting on, because God forbid that it not just be written into the code to stop you from getting fucked by the mechanics of you using your abilities to get out of shit that's coming to kill you that the enemy is doing, because this attack will place you behind them, moving you out of danger from certain things, or throwing you off the edge and killing you in other instances. That's janky, and I can't believe the game's been out this long and they haven't fixed it. They just don't seem to care. The fact that I hate the black market chests. I really do. They don't really give you anything other than, I don't know, experience and consumables that help make you do better moving forward, like a pay-to-win type of thing, essentially. And in order to open up these things, you have to complete everything on a map. So you find all the vistas, which is the viewpoints. You find all the points of interest. You do all the heart quests. There's something I'm forgetting. Heart quest, points of interest, vistas, waypoints. You find all the waypoints. And then you'll get a key so you can unlock one of these chests. But you're going to loot more of these chests than you get keys for. And people only buy these chests off of the auction house, essentially, in the game for like 16 copper. It's nothing. Who gives a shit about 16 copper? Nobody. So that's pointless. Or you can spend your real money to buy 800 diamonds and use 200 of those diamonds to buy a key so you can open a chest. You can also use the other 600 of those diamonds to buy yourself bank slots, because your bank only has so many slots. I think it's something like 18 or so slots. I may be wrong about how many slots are in the bank. I don't really care. The point is you only have like 18, maybe 24 slots in your bank. And then you can spend 600 diamonds, which the lowest amount of diamonds you can buy at a time is 800. So you're going to have 200 left over. And you're going to buy your bank slots, which is going to give you 17 bank slots so that you have space in your bank for shit that you can't carry in your bags. Which, by the way, if you don't buy the expansions, you have 2 less bag slots than I have in the game. And then if you would like more bag slots, you once again need to spend some diamonds in order to get more bag slots on your characters. I hate this system. I understand, like, the game is free to play other than in buying expansions, and so what they've done is they've made the game inconvenient in order to funnel you to the store to spend money on the game to have quality of life items and quality of life fixtures in the game that should have just been developed into the game, that they've instead restricted from the game in order to make you want to buy shit from their store. And then they make the store predatory, as they do in all mobile games, by making it so that you have to purchase an in-game currency, and then you trade the in-game currency for the things in the game that would be your quality of life. Now, if their in-game store was just strictly cosmetic shit, I would not care. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, it's free to play, they're selling you cosmetic things, who gives a shit? But the fact is, it's quality of life things, and that means that they're restricting how they develop the game in order to make the game bad, to sell you items that they could have just put in the game and should have put in the game to begin with. I hate this type of game design. It's not fun. It's dog shit, and all it is designed to fuck you in the end. So I don't like it. It makes me not want to play the game. It really makes me not like the game and not want to play it, because you're restricting quality of life to me spending extra money on your game. And then when I spend my money on your game to buy these stupid diamonds in order to do it, I'm going to get 800 diamonds if I only spend $10. I'm going to spend 600 of those diamonds onto one bank slot, and then I'm going to have 200 diamonds left over. Well, what am I going to do with this 200 diamonds? Buy a stupid key for the chest that gives me junk? Or am I going to buy... Oh, which, by the way, if you would like to transmog your items or transform them to look like a different item to update the way your character looks and customize it, you have to spend items you get out of this chest or that you buy from the store, right? So, once again, quality of life restricted to you purchasing items outside of what you're doing in the game and what you've already gotten for the game for quality of life. It's garbage. This is a garbage system for any developer to choose. It's predatory and it sucks, especially when you're having people spend their money on this stupid currency, which is diamonds in this game, that don't add up to anything. So you have extras left over, and you go, okay, well, maybe if I just spend, instead of $10, I spend $30. Instead of having 800, I have 2,400, and I can use that 2,400 to buy 4 bank slots instead. So now you're spending $30 to have 4 bank slots that you should have just been able to spend $30 on the game and have all of the bank slots available for an in-game currency to buy new bank tabs, similar to what they do in World of Warcraft, right? Here's your bank. Give me X amount of in-game currency. You get a new slot. X amount of in-game currency. You get a new slot. You can put a new bag there, and that's how big your bank is based on your bags and the slots. It works fine. That's not a bad system at all. I don't think people hate that system anywhere. I've never heard anybody complain about that system. It's a system that makes sense and that people do not hate. The thing is, it's a quality of life item. Don't restrict that. Don't make me have to buy extra shit to have bag space on my character to carry things. Like, it's nonsense. It's absolute and total bullshit to design this way, and it's not fun for players. This isn't the way people want to play games, and so I don't know that I'll come back and play the rest of the game after this at some point in time, but it's just at this point, I just want to finish out the story and be done with Guild Wars 2 and let it be done. Like, maybe I'll come back in the future because the expansions are supposed to be much better. Because the story is written on a very surface level at this point. It is a very surface level story. Oh, you've got to choose between doing this and this. New adventurer who I don't know. You make the decisions for what we do as the city guard in charge of guarding the queen. What? What? So this random thief who nobody knows makes the decision on if the queen's guard is going to go out and defend the queen, or like defend the people of the city, or save your friend. Why don't they go protect the city and you go save your friend? Why did I have to make this dumb choice that makes no sense to shoehorn me into making? And this doesn't just happen once. This happens over and over and over and over, and then all of a sudden you're a new guy in this faction that you chose, or they call them orders that you chose, and within your order, you're promoted to the highest rank other than being a master of that order. And like, why? I'm brand new in this guild. I've been here for all of a quest line, and now I'm the top level in your guild. Like, what are you doing? What is this writing? How did I all of a sudden become one of the most highly valued and capable people in your order as the fucking new guy? Like, it it's just very surface level. There are situations where you have to make a choice that seem very arbitrary and forced into existence because, once again, they've designed the game to funnel you to this shop for things instead of making the story good, making the story make sense, actually writing anything, paying attention to the way the combat works, paying attention to the way that the combat functions, paying attention to the way that things interact within the game, and if that makes sense. Placement of resources in the game for your crafting and professions makes no sense at all. Level 1 to 15 zones, you get things like copper and green wood, makes sense. But then you move on to level 15 to, I think it's 25 zones. Right now you're getting iron. And you're getting hardwood, I think is what it was. It might be softwood. And then you're going to keep getting those until like level 60 zones. Why the fuck is that how this is designed instead of each level up in zone is new resources, or there's an overlap in the level 15 to 25 of these copper tier and iron tier, and then once you go to 25 to 35 or whatever it is, you go up to having iron. And then you take a step up in the next zone that overlaps iron and, say, mithril, because it's the only other step up I've seen. And then the zone beyond that is just mithril. Why doesn't this not make sense? Because they're funneling you to the shop, and that's how they've designed the game, is to make it less focused on how you play the game and more focused on trying to get you to spend money in the game. It takes away from everything. The fact that they made it free to play and try to funnel you to the shop takes away from all the potential that the game has. The movement in the game is great. The combat doesn't look bad at all. In fact, I think the combat looks fine. I like the combat. I like the way the combat feels. It's just sometimes if you're fighting on something or in an area where you need to be careful of where your character's at and not go over edges and things, it becomes janky. If you do things that are like underwater, the sound gets muffled when you're underwater, like how things actually sound when you yourself are submerged underwater. This is fantastic. It's actually more immersive. It's fun. It's a small detail that has a big impact. I think it's great. They gave you weapons that you have to have equipped in order for you to fight underwater. You have to have aquatic weapons. I think that's interesting. I don't think it takes away from the game at all. In fact, I think it makes it more interactive. Like, you can't just use your daggers and guns underwater. You need to use a harpoon or a spear gun. That makes sense. I think that's cool. However, it's all overshadowed by funneling me to the damn shop. It has potential, but they've made it through this baseline version of the game so surface level oriented for the story that you're not driven to the story the way that you were driven to the story in Final Fantasy XIV, and you're like, man, this is captivating. They did a good job writing this. What happens next? I really like this character. I can't believe this happened. You don't have that from Guild Wars. It's not written at that kind of a level. In fact, it's written far worse than World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft's story is much better done than Guild Wars 2. The movement in Guild Wars is fantastic. The combat only feels janky in certain situations that I think they should have addressed and known that they needed to address years ago, and for some reason don't seem to care. Funneling us to the shop, dog shit. Funneling us to the shop, not to just be like, hey, if you spend $5, you get a new bank slot, but to be like, hey, spend $10, get this currency, spend most of the currency, and then be left with enough left over that you're going, man, I can either just figure out something to buy for this much that I don't really care about, or I can spend more of my money to have more of this currency, and I can get something that matters because I've already got 200 of this currency. So, I mean, and that's why they do it that way. That's why that currency is designed that way in mobile games. The fact that you're stuck with weapon-like skills, like attack options based on your weapon set, really makes it feel very mobile game-like in a lot of ways, especially with the way things push you to the shop. In a lot of ways, it makes me feel like I'm playing a mobile game on my computer, and that irritates me. It irritates me in a way that makes me look forward to being done. So maybe eventually I'll want to come back and check out the expansions because I do hear that the expansions are better, but right now I just want to be done, and because it feels very mobile game-like. It feels like they don't care about the game as much as they care about the shop. And it has potential that it feels like they just didn't care to try to meet. They knew that they know how to make a game, and instead of making a good game, they made a good shop. So that's how I feel about Guild Wars 2.